CRPD and SDGs. The meeting will also we'll talk about the plans for a non-coming capacity building online training for disabled people in the Commonwealth countries. So we will move from there, and maybe now I will introduce each speaker when the time comes for their time to speak. That is what I would like to share about Cdpf for now. Yeah. So I want to call upon our first speaker, Ms. Diana Rasan from the Disability Rights Fund, who is here to talk about the importance to fund. Welcome, Ms. Diana.
Thank you, Sarah, and thanks to Richard Rieser for the invitation to speak here. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful International Day of Persons with Disabilities yesterday.
Yes.
As Sarah said, I'm the founding executive director of the Disability Rights Fund and the Disability Rights Advocacy Fund, and we are participatory grant makers and collaborations between donors and the global disability movement, funding disabled persons organizations across Africa, Asia, the Pacific, and the Caribbean. It is an honor to be able to open this session implementing the SDGs and the CRPD, the Commonwealth Disabled Peoples Perspective, and an honor to be the donor to support the relaunch and the rapid growth of the Commonwealth Disabled Peoples Forum with funding from the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office of the United Kingdom. Since relaunch of the forum in June 2019, and as Sarah said, the Commonwealth Disabled Peoples Forum has grown to include, I think Richard told me, as of this morning, 78 member organizations of persons with disabilities across 49 of the 54 Commonwealth countries. This broad representation is critical to raise the voices and inclusion of the 450 million people with disabilities in the Commonwealth across all the functions of the Commonwealth. This includes, importantly, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which, as Sarah said, is coming up in Rwanda in June of 2021, and at which Cdpf will have representation. Even before the current pandemic, which has, as we all know, severely affected persons with disabilities around the world, growing wealth and power inequality, as well as growing restrictions on civil society everywhere, have dampened the achievement of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and have made inclusion of persons with disabilities in the achievement of the SDGs difficult. What has been achieved has largely been the result of the activism, passion, and advocacy of the disability rights movement around the world. Now is not the time to stop. The priorities of the Cdpf must be heard and supported. The Disability Rights Fund and Disability Rights Advocacy Fund are one of the largest funders of disabled persons organizations across the developing world. But with a joint budget of around only $5 million annually, we cannot meet the funding needs of 15% of the world's population. I can therefore underline the importance of the demands of the Commonwealth Disabled Peoples Forum, especially the need for core funding, human and technical resources for DPOs, and particularly national umbrella organizations, so they can advise and pressure governments to fulfill their obligations towards their disabled citizens in line with Articles 4 and 33 of the CRPD. It is high time for governments, development agencies, and other funders to step up and fund the representative organizations of persons with disabilities, recognizing that people with disabilities themselves are the experts who can help us build back better. Thank you very much. And I apologize, I will need to leave this meeting a little early. I'll stay as long as I can. Thank you once again. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Ms. Diana, for your words. We appreciate the support that we have had from DRF, and we hope to continue having you on board as our funders as we go along and grow. I want to call upon the next speaker, Layne Robinson from the Commonwealth Secretariat Disability and Commonwealth Secretary to take up the floor. Welcome, Layne.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for working alongside the Commonwealth for this special event. On behalf of the Commonwealth Secretary General of the Right Honourable Patricia Scott and QC, let me thank you very much for the very good work that has been done by the Commonwealth Disabilities People's Forum over the last 2 years. The Commonwealth heads of government met in 2018, and they, for first time in a long time, made very clear pronouncements on what needed to happen in the Commonwealth with respect to stigma and discrimination across the Commonwealth. We have been very pleased to work alongside the Cdpf and all the other stakeholders to try to deal with this mandate that has been given by our leaders, and much has been accomplished over the last 2 years, particularly the growth and expansion of the DPOs in member countries. But there's a lot more that needs to happen. There's a lot more change that needs to happen at subnational level to improve the lives of persons with disabilities. When the Commonwealth leaders met, they talked about a common future, a more prosperous, fairer, a more equal, and a secure and sustainable future. And that is not going to happen until every person, including persons with disabilities, has the access to the kinds of employment, access to health, access to inclusive education that we talk about, access to all forms of society. And we want to see this reduction in stigma and discrimination, which will drive this kind of understanding of what those issues are for persons with disabilities. So as today we look at just coming out of International Day with Persons with Disabilities, we know there's a lot to be done to achieve the SDGs, and the pandemic has not helped. It has set back perhaps by more than 10 years, whatever progress that has been made right across the world. And so what are we going to do about it? In the Commonwealth, we look now forward to the next heads meeting to redouble our efforts and to probably recommit and perhaps go even further towards ensuring that disability rights are the principles upon which our member states are making their building back measures. I want to say also that we perhaps need to go further. This week, for the first time, we had a meeting with our high commissions to begin briefing them, and we hope to continue that, working with the Commonwealth Peoples with Disabilities Forum. But we also intend to perhaps hold a ministerial meeting, an interministerial meeting, where we get an opportunity to engage with our ministers on what needs to happen at country level. And we want to do that in partnership with Sarah and the Commonwealth Peoples with Disabilities Forum and the many stakeholders that are going to be a part of this meeting. The Commonwealth will do its part to ensure that we have a Commonwealth that is inclusive for all. Thank you so much, and we wish you all the best for this very good event that we have today. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson, for your insightful comments, and we know we shall continue engaging with you for our future endeavors. Thank you once again, and I want to call upon Mr. Richard Rieser, the UK General Secretary, CDPF, now to come up and speak about what CDPF is doing, its broad and the scope of CDPF. Welcome, Richard. Richard?
Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, okay, thanks, sorry. Okay, good. It's great to have everybody on the line. I know there are many, many meetings that are conflicting, several that I would have liked to be in myself, but you know, we didn't choose the slot. The slot was given to us by the UN. So, and we are recording this, so people who you know who might have wanted to see it there will be able to get the recording of this meeting on our website probably by Monday. First of all, membership has been mentioned. I think it's really important because unless we are representative, we are not really the voice of disabled people and people with disabilities across the Commonwealth. When we started this off in 2008, we had 19 countries represented in London with money from various British government departments that supported that. We also had an event to celebrate that at Marlborough House, the headquarters of the Commonwealth Secretariat in London. After that, when we relaunched after a meeting at the Global Summit on Disability in 2018. People thought it would be a good idea to launch again. We had 27 countries actually represented in New York. 33 had joined by then, but 4 of them were not allowed to come because of visa regulations in the United States. Now we are have representative organizations in 47 of the 54 Commonwealth countries. And that's, I think that might have gone up actually, because we are 42 full member national DPOs representing all the strains of disabled people in their country, and a further 37 associates. So 79 in 47 countries is, I think, the right figure at the moment, with one who's indicated they're going to join but haven't joined yet. And today we got Namibia came through. So, you know, we are putting on members, and that's important. Why is this not going forward? Ah, right. To just say some of the highlights of the earlier period. This was a photo of some of our officers with Terry Waite at Marlborough House. Perhaps the issue is quite sad that James Mwelo, who was there, was our initial moving force from Uganda. Next to him, George from Trinidad, Barbados, and Trinidad, I think, yes. And behind him, Mr. Abidi from India, and next to him, Sarah Kachachka, all of whom are now deceased. So 3 of them died while we were trying to function within the 2008 to 13 window. However, we did manage to do a number of things. We held a couple of meetings around the world. We represented disabled people's views over that time. And perhaps our biggest project with the Commonwealth Foundation was to run capacity building training for DPOs in the South Pacific, 8 Commonwealth countries plus Fiji, which were readmitted. So that's effectively 9. And when we started that training, and we wanted to make sure there were youth there as well as a male and a female representative from each of them, I think there were only 3 countries that had ratified. A week or so, a few weeks afterwards, it had gone up, and now I think 6 out of those 9 have 7 out of 9 have ratified now. So it did have a big difference, and we did lots of other things like that. But for the deaths and for lack of funding, we ran into a quiet period. However, when we relaunched, there was a lot of emphasis on wanting to do this. And we set up an executive committee, a dynamic one. We wanted there to be a majority of women on that, and there are 11 out of 20. We wanted regions to be represented, and they are. We wanted there to be minority interests of various disability communities there. So we have a representative of Neurodiversity you'll hear from. We have a representative of the deaf community who unfortunately can't be with us. We have a representative for people with mental health issues who you will hear from later. And we feel that we are representing a wide range of views when we put forward our policies. We have managed to set up our committee in Malta, and we'd had several online meetings. We had a face-to-face meeting in Malta in February, and really set about setting up 6 policy subgroups which had been functioning and signing off those papers. And one I want to emphasize, they were on humanitarian situations, employment, stigma and discrimination, women and girls, and assistive devices technology, and inclusive education. I wanted to focus for a minute on inclusive education because it's not on the list for CHOGM, but I think it's something we have to see as the basis of building back better. We only need to look at what happened when 1.6 billion children, including many disabled children, were excluded from school during the COVID crisis, to see that even now, many of those disabled children are not back in school when others have gone back. And there is a fear about the spread of contagion, but there's also that they've dropped out because we weren't able, through distance learning, to meet their access needs. And in fact, COVID, as I'm sure Sruti will say, has shown up all the cracks in our moving towards equality. The 6 policy papers can be seen on our website, and they form the basis of our ask to CHOGM. From March to November, we held a number of online summits on COVID, and we developed policy, and we were very successful in some of our member countries, such as in Malaysia, Guyana, the Maldives, to some extent at a national level in India, but not down at the base level, to some extent in Kenya and in South Africa, getting listened to. But very few of the rest of the Commonwealth countries listened to us at the beginning, and a lot of mistakes were made, which Sruti will tell you about. We also picked up the worldwide reaction to the death of George Floyd and decided that we had to focus on anti-racism. We passed a statement which we sent to the Commonwealth. We were pleased that the Commonwealth ministers also then produced a statement. I'm not saying it's down to us, but I think we helped. And we've now set up a policy subgroup that will meet for the first time next week. And particularly, we're looking for Indigenous people representatives. We have representatives from Australian Aborigines and Maoris. We are looking for Dalit representatives from India. We have First Peoples from Canada. And we're also having representation from South Africa, where there is still big racial differences between the white and black population. So we plan to go on increasing our profile, and the meeting that Layne talked about 2 days ago, I think was a good example, to actually have the Secretary General stay for the whole of a 2-hour meeting and respond to what we're saying. I think means that we really think now that in this part of the world covered by the Commonwealth, disability has a much better chance of being taken seriously. For the future, we're developing the campaign for the key demands for CHOGM, and we'll be there either online or in person to make sure they get in. We're delivering capacity training with support both from Disability Rights Forum and from the Commonwealth Secretariat. We think, and this is what we've been told, that it will be an online module, 14 4-hour sessions with breaks. We'll run them from February till the end of April, beginning of May. We will record them so that people who miss them can then partake of it. There will be follow-up work to do, and there will be accreditation. When we've done all of that, that will be packaged into a manual which can be translated into community languages, and there will be a computer stick with all the film bits on so that people down at the local level where they don't have access to the internet can still run this training. Capacity building is the key. There are perhaps 2,000 or 3,000 disability activists in the world. That isn't really good enough. We need to have hundreds of thousands of disability activists if we are to actually keep our issues on the agenda and have them taken seriously. Sorry, my phone. I'll put it away. So as you can see, the program covers our rights, thinking about disability, health and COVID, the implications, innovation, trade and livelihoods, employment, environmental humanitarian situations, women and girls, respect for law, youth and collaboration with the CCYDN, who are part of our executive, inclusive education, anti-racism and equality, building DPOs and building a campaigning voice, and 2 sessions on influencing government, one at the local level and one at national level. And then the last thing we want to do in the coming period is develop the influence of the CDPF, especially around the interface with disabled people and global warming in the run-up to CAP2 in November in England and or Glasgow actually, and we want to have more influence on that. But we also think it's really important that we put ourselves on the map. We have applied for accreditation, which I'm sure will be granted from the Commonwealth, and we've also applied to IDA, and we are awaiting our application to IDA because we think we represent a big locus of influence of disabled people in the world. Thank you, Chair. You're muted, Sarah.
Thank you, Richard. We're happy to know what CDPF is about and what our scope is and where we want to move forward to. And we look forward for collaborations in future with all our other stakeholders on board. I would like now to welcome Dr. Sruti Mohapatra from India. She's the acting chair, Cdpf, and will talk to us about the important lessons we have learned from COVID-19. Welcome, Dr. Sruti.
Thank you, Chair. Namaste and good evening from India. Today we are going to talk about a problem which has baffled not just people with disabilities, but all people and all governments across the world, because this was a new pandemic and it took us all unaware. But while government after government, country after country started their own responses to meet the challenges of COVID-19, three things from the perspective of people with disabilities came to the fore. The first, governments across the Commonwealth were unprepared to meet the unique challenges that people with disabilities faced when it came to the COVID-19 response. Everything that was mandated by the UN CRPD, the Sustainable Development Goals, Goal 1, Goal 2, Goal 4, everything was completely flouted. This is evident from the sudden lockdown that was imposed. There's a lot of disturbance.
Maybe Gemma, you can see who is not muted so that you mute the person who has some background.
I'm afraid it's coming from Sruti's end. I'm sorry,
it is coming from somebody. Okay.
He muted himself now, it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So this was evident from the sudden lockdown that was announced, and overnight people with disabilities were left unattended and uncared for. In India, we know of many who were stranded without changing their soiled clothes, attending to very basic toileting activities because no buses moved, no public transport moved, and no one was allowed to come out of their houses due to the curfew. So these kind of challenges were not considered when government was planning the lockdown. The second major issue that came to the fore is that health issues of the disabled is actually not a priority. In a statistical survey that was done in United Kingdom in England, it was found that out of 10 people who died, 6 were the disabled. This also, it's glaringly obvious that although we are working towards education, employment, and other aspects, health is not something we are seriously taking into consideration. But the third thing which came to the forefront is something very positive. That is, people with disabilities came together. They made their voices audible. I can give you the example of India, where we wrote to the senior ministry in the government of India, and they directed all the state governments to ensure that whenever a state government was planning for COVID, needs of people with disabilities was included in that. So these were the 3 outcomes of the impact of COVID-19. Now, what were the major challenges that were faced by this group?
You have 30 seconds.
Was access to information, access to health, access to food, and of course, which Ricard mentioned, education. Overnight, when digital education became the norm in countries like India, where digital network penetration hasn't happened, internet and connectivity is not there, it was a big problem. So what government should do to ensure that we move forward? Number 1, they must understand this is a huge population. Number 2, it is a heterogeneous population. Number 3, it is a poverty-stricken population. Number 4, it is a high-risk group. So once we consider these 4 things, then governments, whatever planning they do, that will be very much good for providing the equity and the equality and the rights that the CRPD mandates. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sruti, for your strong points. We appreciate the fact that these things are real and we have to deal with them as they come along, and they were not envisaged before. So governments need to take up responsibility. And I would like to now call upon the speaker following, Thandi Mfulo from South Africa. She's also the vice chair of CDPF, and we'll be talking about.
Everybody.
Welcome.
My just has to deal with the inclusion of disability in SDGs. Despite the fact that there's this universal inclusion, basic right or basic principle of sustainable development goals, that includes people with disability. The transition process that they talk about leave no one behind of the UN 2030 agenda SDG has shifted the tone of including people with disability. And once the SDGs are like that, that means it becomes such a challenge. There's still higher input, which is SDG 1, hunger, SDG 2, then jobs, SDG 8. Now, people challenge around those things. What about people with disability? It means we lag behind. But main aim here is about stigma and discrimination in terms of disability. Today, as much as we've got all these policies, all these laws, the real discrimination, especially in our country, based on race. Now, you'll find that there's difference between disabled person who's white and disabled person who's black. Stigma is there, it's based on race. It means people with disability who are black are tend to, that's own observation. They are at times discriminated or stigma based on that. Remember, this color, there's a belief, there's a disability. And if that is so, we're saying in African country, we've got rules. They've signed this protocol, they've signed the agreement, but it comes implementation with nothing. No law that is for the law there, but no enforcement, there's implementation.
Thandi, I'm going to interrupt.
Rules and laws.
Thandi, can you hear me?
With people with disabilities needs to be enforced. If Canada can report, then the report being one monitoring mechanism is checked all the time, telling truth or implementing according to what you signed. They verify and send back today.
Thandi, can you hear me?
The rights of people with disability need to be treated equal. And it needs to be included in all the policies that are in, especially.
Hi, Thandi. Thandi, your time is almost up. Thandi? Yeah, your time is up and you have just, you can make the last minute, and your internet is not very clear. We are not able to hear you very clearly, but your time is almost up. Maybe you can make your final interventions.
Thank you. I'm just saying, in so low, can African mass what they've sent for. Make sure that we, as CPF, we monitor and push for the country to implement what they agreed for, because the implementation side of it is like, thank you.
Thank you, Thandi, for your insights. We will maybe listen to it further because your connectivity was not very clear. And I would like to now call upon our next speaker, Natalie Murphy. She is from Caribbean and representing the small island countries. She's a member of the executive committee member of CDPF, and we'll talk about COVID and the threat of climate change and how we can get organized as persons with disability. Welcome, Natalie.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, good day, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Natalie.
Okay, the pleasure is mine to represent the Caribbean region at this forum. there are approximately or exactly 12 countries from the region which make up the Commonwealth Disabled Peoples Forum. I have to say that almost all of these countries have ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, but we still have a few who are yet to become members of the CDPF, and every effort is being made to ensure that these numbers are increased, and then we capitalize on the benefits that have to be derived from being part of the CDPF. With regards to the implementation of the convention on the Caribbean level, we now have in place the CARICOM community, which is the CARICOM heads of government. We now have in place a special rapporteur on disability in the person of Senator Dr. Floyd Morris of Jamaica, who incidentally was elected on the UN Conference of States Parties Committee this week. And this too is historic because Jamaica, where he's from, was the first country to sign and ratify the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So I know that Dr. Morris has plans to engage the various countries in the region in terms of the implementation of the convention, and we are looking forward to that. In terms of climate change, I have to say that climate change is real. The countries in the Caribbean, small island progressing countries, I say progressing because most of them are in various stages of development, and we make up a combined population of approximately 6 million people from these countries, and there are hazards who impact us as we deal with the issue of climate change. And though the most frequent being hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, and of course to a lesser extent, tsunamis, we also have floods, we have landslides. But the one that is most frequent are hurricanes. And every year we in the region have to prepare for a 6-month period of the hurricane season, which runs from June 1st to November 30th. So you can just imagine the anxiety, the worry, the fear that comes with the preparation of this hurricane season. Also, there's the threat of earthquakes, and in recent times, many of the islands have been affected by tremors. And we have been told that the Caribbean is overdue for a huge earthquake. So that is something that is always at the back of the minds of the people of the islands. Volcanoes, most of the countries are volcanic in nature. There are many who have active volcanoes. Some of them are dormant. In the case of Dominica, where I am from, we have 9 volcanoes. And you never know when at which time one might decide to just begin acting up. So these floods as well, because wow,
your time is almost up.
In terms of getting empowered, I think we getting organized. I think we need to empower ourselves for climate resilience and through the capacity building and livelihood support, and we need to tap on the various resources that are available, be it NGOs, be it governments, be it the corporate citizens, to ensure that persons with disabilities really are strengthened, the organizations are strengthened, because there's the issue of governance, there's the issue of leadership, there's the issue of management. So we just have to get ourselves together, supported by, of course, the governments and CDPF. So thank you very much.
Okay, sorry for rushing you, but you have made your points, and we appreciate what we are grappling with when it comes to the emerging issues of climate change and the effects they have on persons with disabilities, and how we would like them to be implemented and addressed to enable persons with disabilities be able to be part and parcel of the society. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
I want to call upon Michael Njenga now from Kenya, who is a representative member of CDF and represents mental health issues. And he is going to talk about the impact of COVID on mental health and how organizing mental health survivors and why it is important to be a part of cross-impairment organizations like Cdpf. So I want to call upon Michael Njenga to take the floor. Michael.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I think it's an honor to be able to speak in this particular forum. Certainly, I would want to start by reflecting on the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic has further compounded barriers, inequalities, and marginalization faced by persons with psychosocial disabilities, and as an underrepresented groups within the disability movements who are at a higher risk. The persons with psychosocial disability, of course, have gone through a lot of mental distress due to loss of livelihood, disintegration of support system, and certainly the adverse effects of curfews and lockdowns. I think additionally, prolonged confinement have led to abuse and violence, and this is specifically in the context of women and girls with psychosocial disability, both within institutions and also, of course, in community-based settings. I think for me, in terms of seeking to build back better, it is imperative to ensure that we do this in a way that is compliant with the CRPD, and of course, reflecting the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think for persons with psychosocial disabilities, it is important to ensure that, number one, that all COVID-19 measures, as well as economic recovery programs, are inclusive and accessible to all persons with psychosocial disabilities. I think, secondly, social protection measures and other support services must also be inclusive and accessible to all persons with psychosocial disabilities and their families. Thirdly, is the issue of the full and effective participation of persons with psychosocial disabilities through their representative organizations. This should be enhanced to ensure maximum outreach and dissemination of information. And this must be done in line with Article 4.3 and that 3.3 and the general comment number 7 about the full and effective participation and consultation of organizations of persons with disabilities, including organizations representing children with disabilities. Thirdly, I would like also to reaffirm that even as we rebuild community-based mental health services, these services must be recovery-oriented and they must be grounded on fundamental rights and freedoms. I would also want to state that as we build back better, we have to recognize that there can be no health without mental health, but also more important is that there can be no mental health without full compliance with the provisions which are provided in the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I would also like to further reaffirm that for the majority of mental health conditions, psychosocial support and other social interventions are essential options for treatment, and we must fundamentally move from the biomedical model of addressing mental distress and look at the social determinants of health, for example, existing inequalities in our society, poverty, gender-based violence, and all those intersecting factors.
You have 30 seconds, Michael.
Thank you very much. Here, I'm on my last statement.
Okay.
I think, lastly, we would wish
We can't hear you. We
I think
cannot
he's
hear you,
frozen.
Michael.
He's frozen.
Michael?
He's frozen, unfortunately.
Okay. I think let's move on to the next speaker. I think he has been very eloquent in the representation of that sector of disabilities that are normally not seen and not taken on board because of their invisibility, which we are pushing.
Can I just intervene, Richard? I will get his, it looked like he was reading from something he typed up. I will make sure we get that. And when we put the film of this up on our website, we'll also put the text of what he was saying. Thank you.
Okay, okay, that will be fine. And without much ado, let me call upon Emile Gouws from South Africa, who is a representative on CDF committee on issues of neurodiversity. And he's going to talk about the importance of organizing people with autism, impacts of COVID on neurodiverse, and how to benefit from being part of CDF. Welcome, Emile, to the floor. Emile, are you there?
JS, distinguished guests, good afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
The Cdpf granted me the opportunity to do self-advocacy on an international stage. It also allowed me and it granted me an opportunity to get a glimpse of reality where I witnessed the inequality that was experienced in society. And I realized that despite our differences, we've got similar challenges. Next slide, please. The CDPF, as a representative, it introduced me to the CRPD, which has got different articles where we fight for equality, inclusion, and accessibility. I also became aware of the Commonwealth Charter, which expresses the commitment of member states to the development of free and democratic societies and to promote peace and prosperity. I also became aware of the role that self-advocates play to put emphasis on creating awareness and essential training. It is important also what we've seen recently with this recent pandemic. It's the importance of preparation and the precaution of response plans in need of an emergency. I also became aware of the responsibility of DPOs and the synergy of them working with governments to implement change. Next slide, please. Referring to the emergency plans implementation, the recent COVID-19 pandemic shed light on existing inequalities. This current pandemic had its disproportionate impact not only on disabled people, but referring to neurodiversity. Next slide, please. The autism community remains part of the marginalized group, and we experience challenges on cognitive, emotional, and social level. Referring to the implementation of the nationwide lockdown in different countries, it had a tremendous impact on the neurodiverse families as well as the individuals as such from low to middle income countries. Social distancing and other measures disrupted the routines and caused greater sense of anxiety and frustration. Although not all neurodiverse individuals had similar experiences, we still need secure and structured environments where social regression might take place. And this will cause frustration that will lead to heightened anxiety levels. Next slide, please. I believe that referring to the neurodiverse population, we need to work together with the UN to achieve the Sustainable Developmental Goals in the following areas that has a direct impact on the neurodiverse community. It is to reduce inequalities, to ensure that there's accessible and good healthcare. Referring to Article 24, ensure that all persons with disabilities have got equal education opportunities that doesn't discriminate against their abilities, to reduce inequalities and equal employment, to ensure that there's accessible transport, and referring to a working force that is decent work and equal economic growth and accessible service and cities. I thank you. Nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Sarah, you're on mute.
Sorry for that. I was just thanking the presenter for reminding us of how the structures that need to be put in place to include and to implement CRPD and SDGs as far as neurodiversity is concerned. So we thank you, Emile, and I want to call upon Jude Rama, who is the next speaker, and will be speaking about Indigenous people, and he represents Indigenous people in the committee of the CDPF committee, and she's from Australia. Welcome, June Rama.
Thank you, Chair, and hello everyone, wherever you're sitting on the many lands across this Commonwealth. I'm a Gumbunja woman from New South Wales in Australia, and I'm the Deputy CEO. We are the only representative body and DPO, excuse me, representing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with disability in Australia. To be Aboriginal in Australia today is a disadvantage due to lack of access to adequate housing, clean drinking water, and health supports, or education, for example. So we say having a disability creates a double disadvantage for many of our people living with disability. Even though Australia has ratified the CRPD, we have a long way to go to see equality for our Aboriginal people with disability, and many still live in quite dire disadvantage, particularly in our remote areas of Australia. The history of the White Australia policy, colonialism and invasion has impacted greatly on our Aboriginal people and those living with disability. We did not become citizens of our country to 1967. So this intergenerational trauma has created disability. We now say that at least 45% of our people live with a disability. And due to these high rates of disability, we have high rates of incarceration, with over 70% of our people being incarcerated with undiagnosed disabilities. We are the only country in the world that still lock up 10-year-olds without being charged. Australia still works with the medical model of disability rather than the social model. And this then doesn't incorporate the cultural practices of our people or living on country. So for many of our people, the racism and having a disability means that they don't get the supports in their life that they really need. The ongoing trauma and racism creates a barrier for Aboriginal people with disability, seeking support and services. We have a long way to go in changing the gap to ensure equality for our Aboriginal people with disability. In regards to the recent Black Lives Matter movement, Australia has had a previous Royal Commission to Black Deaths in Custody. This was over 30 years ago, and with 332 recommendations, and none of these still have been implemented today. Our Aboriginal people with disability are still dying in incarceration. So I'd just like to say that, you know, Australia may be a first world country, but we have a long way to go in supporting our Aboriginal people with disability who live in poverty and disadvantage at higher rates than the mainstream Australian community. And thank you for allowing me to talk.
Thank you, June, for your presentation. I want to now call upon Jimmy Aines, who is also an ADD International Physical Partner, CDPF. Okay, before I do that, I would like to speak about women, girls, and disability issues with regards to what CDPF is also pushing for implementation of their inclusion, because we know that women issues are normally gender-based issues. We know women are discriminated against in most countries. We know that women are not given the rightful place that they deserve because of being women. And more so, women with disabilities and girls with disabilities are disadvantaged and discriminated, especially like, for example, in Africa, where we have priority or preference for male gender. Like, for example, when it comes to education and you don't have enough funding, you would prefer to educate a male child rather than a female. So there are issues that we would like countries to look into as far as women and girls and with disabilities are concerned. It's on health matters where reproductive health is very key to women who are homemakers, and most of the time, even raising families and effects of COVID, for example, they're the ones at home with the children, and they are also experiencing poverty because they don't go to paid work or do trade or business for themselves, and they have to rely maybe on others to support them. So I think when it comes to the issues of women and girls with disabilities, there is need to bring them to the forefront and include them in the agenda of capacity building and in the agenda of development, so that they can be able to be at the table when decisions are being made, so that they can also air their voices from their point of view and from the issues that they face, to include even gender-based violence, which we saw during the pandemic, had risen and mostly affecting even women. Some were violated because of being disabled. So there are those issues that as CDPF would like to see implementation of the CRPD and the SDGs 1, SDG 2, and most of the SDGs, climate change, poverty, health, being included in the laws and the policies that are being enacted in Commonwealth countries, so that women and girls with disabilities are able to sit at the same table with men and have equity in sharing what their needs are, what their rights are, and how they can also play a part in the development. So with that few remark, I would like to call upon the next speaker, Jimmy Aines, to come on board and speak about for 3 minutes. He's an international physical partner with CDPF. Welcome, Jimmy.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And thank you to everybody who's spoken today. I've really enjoyed hearing all of the presentations, and I want to really, in the 3 minutes I have available to me, I just want to say congratulations and well done to everybody in the CDPF forum for all the progress you've made since we relaunched the forum back in New York, in that old world we used to live in June 2019. I think this event is a good testament to how far you have come through the most difficult of years, and I want to commend you for that. As we know, COVID-19 has done nothing but exacerbate inequality in our world. And we know full well that there's no building back better unless and until we can build back better for all people. There's no transformative equality, no equal rights and participation until it's there for everybody. We know that well. This is why Cdpf is important to me, not just for COVID-19 and building back better, but for disability rights as a whole. Cdpf gives us an amazing diversity of a platform across its far-reaching geography, the 54 countries of the Commonwealth, with a diversity of people and individuals, diversity of organizations who are members of the Cdpf. And to me, the important point is that Cdpf offers us the chance to engage disability activists and activism down to the grassroots level in the countries of the Commonwealth. And that to me is essential. Richard spoke earlier about the world having 2,000 to 3,000 disability activists. Now, I don't know where he got that factor on, but if it's true, it's a shocker. It's way too few. And I want us to see, I want the CDPF to continue to work, to develop, to nurture, to support, to bring through disability activists from the countries, from within the membership, from the grassroots, to bring them through to the fore, because this is the only way we're going to build back better for all. And I believe that the forum has made good steps in the last year and a half, and I'm really proud to be associated with that. And I wish the forum all the very best. Keep it up. The work is just beginning. This is a call to your action. Keep up the good fight. Keep growing the forum, keep strengthening the forum, keep growing that membership, keep nurturing that activism for disability rights and inclusion around the world. Your contribution is important, it's needed, and I wish you all the very best in the months and years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your interventions. I want to call upon the next speaker, Mr. Ricard Boden, UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, UK FCODO strategy. We'll talk about UK FCDO strategy, building back better and working with DPOs. So welcome, Ricard Boden, to the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. So my name is Richard Boden. I'm in the FCDO's Disability Inclusion team. Thank you for letting me being a part of today's session. I wanted to say a couple of things. First about the FCDO and our priorities, and then also just a couple of reflections from what I've heard today. So firstly, the FCDO is a new organised Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, which is a merger of two UK government departments, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and the Department for International Development. We have, with a new department, a huge opportunity with a much bigger scope, a much bigger geographical presence, and greater networks across the world. So we have a greater opportunity on disability inclusion and disability rights. We have supported the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum over the last few years through the Disability Rights Fund, and it's really important network to share lessons, best practice, and to work together to lobby on disability rights. A couple of years ago, the UK put disability inclusion at the heart of its development policy, and there's a couple of things I wanted to announce today that have been announced this week. Firstly, that we had a summit, Global Disability Summit in 2018, which we hosted with the International Disability Alliance and the Government of Kenya. And we, this week, handed over to the Government of Norway, who will have the next summit in Norway in 2022. Secondly, we published a strategy in 2018, and next year we will publish a refresh of that strategy. And we just also last month published a progress report on progress on that strategy. Now I want to say just a few reflections from some of the speakers today. Firstly, that clearly CHOGM 2021 opportunity.
Richard, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. Because your audio quality, I think, is affected possibly by the fact that you've got your video on. Much as we want to see you, could you try doing it without the video so that we can have a possibly better audio, please? Thank you.
Yes, sure. Share a couple of reflections now from today and from the speakers. Firstly, that CHOGM next year is a huge opportunity. It's great to hear the work that's been taking place. We must build on and improve on the summit in 2018. COP26 this year is also a huge opportunity to make sure disability is at the heart of that vital conference. Secondly, the impact of COVID this year. Clearly, there's been a huge disproportionate impact. The recent report from the Disability Rights Fund and the International Disability Alliance, showing the testimonies from people across the world, shows that. We must make sure that we have an inclusive response. Public health information needs to be accessible. We must ensure that the networks that people with disabilities rely on are not broken down. Thirdly, the point about funding. Clearly, organisations of persons with disabilities have a huge contribution to make, need to be central to the discussions and the debate, but funding is an issue. We did earlier this year announce more funding to the Disability Rights Fund and the International Disability Alliance, but we must lobby others to do the same. And then finally, just from the last couple of speakers, just the importance of supporting underrepresented groups in that work. We heard from speakers on mental health and autism, and we need to recognise the diversity of disability in everything that we do. Clearly, intersectionality is an important aspect of that. So I just wanted to share those reflections. I thank you again for giving me an opportunity to say a few words, and thank you again for everything you've done. I've been really impressed with how you've progressed over the last couple of years and clearly reaching a bigger platform with more groups. So thank you. I hope you've heard this last bit loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. Yes, we have heard the last bit were quite clear, and we are very happy for the work that you're doing, and look forward for more engagements and finding ways of bringing issues and laws and regulations about where they are not and where they are. We want to make them better as CDPF, and I know with your support, we will go a long way. Since what we have done in the short time since our relaunch, I think given the support that we require, the sky is going to be our limit, and we want to see that issues of disabilities are included, are heard, and voices of persons with disabilities are amplified. Yeah, we are doing well, and I think I want to call upon Gemma. She was to look at the chat box and see what questions we have, maybe to pose to the presenters. Unless, Richard, you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I'm here. I haven't seen any in the chat box yet. If people have any points, can they put them in the chat box now? We've just about got we've got about 6-7 minutes. We can't go beyond that because the signers and the captioners need to stop. So we have about 6 minutes. I have a last comment I want to make, but someone put in the chat box the importance of the social model, and I'll just answer that really. I think the training that we talked about, it's going to be really important for thinking about disability is going to be the first session. This transition, or what's sometimes been called the paradigm shift in the convention, hasn't really filtered down into the countries that have actually, and the 182 of them have ratified. All but 4 of the Commonwealth countries have now ratified the convention. So that's 50 countries have ratified, which is a big catch up from where we were. And we are putting pressure on for Botswana, who has neither signed nor ratified. The Solomon Islands, Tonga, and Cameroon are the 4 countries in the Commonwealth that are not yet ratified. But even those that are not really realizing what it says in the convention, that it is a root and branch change about how you think about disability. And for too many countries in too many places, it is business as usual. You can see that in the response to the pandemic. We have been identified as the vulnerable ones. We're not vulnerable. We are higher risk because we have the underlying impairments, and by and large, we're poorer than most people. Those are two products of being in a disabling society. They're nothing to do with us having an impairment. It's also to do with the fact that there isn't assistive devices and reasonable accommodations made so that we can get employment, we can have our families, we can live in accommodation that meets our needs. Those are all not things that are within us. They are things within the society, and the convention requires countries to change the way they think about this. The fact they've so easily gone into calling us the vulnerable rather than people higher at risk shows that they haven't understood the need to transform their thinking from the old medical individual model to a social human rights approach. I would say that is probably the most fundamental thing that we have to do over the next coming period. And it is certain that we will not reach the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030 or even 2040 if that transformation doesn't take place. So that's in answer to the point that somebody put in the chat.
There's been a question while you were speaking, Richard, from Rebecca Kinsinger, who I think is in South Africa. How are other countries building a capacity for advocacy, especially as we move towards that social model of disability? I apologize if I've got the wrong country there. So how are other countries building a capacity for advocacy, especially as we move towards that social model of disability?
Could we bring Michael in on that? I think maybe he'd be able to help us on advocacy work that you're doing with people, mental health system users. Are you still on, Michael? Yeah. Would you like to give us a few points on that?
Yeah, thank you, Richard. I think, so for us, what we are doing is just having conversation on how we can build back better, but in compliance with the CRPD, and how do we make our voices count in this particular conversation. And I think for us, it's about equipping especially the next generation of self-advocates with psychosocial disabilities with skills to be able to effectively advocate within a human rights framework, looking at international human rights standards, not only looking at the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, but looking at the work of other treaty bodies, for example, the Convention Against Torture, and also looking at initiatives which are going on at the regional level. For example, discussions around the African disability protocol. And I think one of the specific programs in terms of capacity building which we're involved in is the Bridge program, which focuses on introduction to the CRPD and the SDGs, and also look into issue of self-advocates understanding the issues of public policy, budget advocacy, legal harmonization. So equipping them to translate the generalities of the convention to mean something tangible to the ordinary person, for example, in rural Kenya or in Nigeria or in Zambia. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you, Michael. Sarah, do you want to add anything to that? Because we're running out of time. Any last thoughts, and then I'll wind up.
What I would like to add is that we are also building capacity of women to amplify their voices through programs that we have. For example, in Kenya, we have a project on women amplifying their voices so that their capacity is built and they are able to form DPOs, those who don't have any to join, and those who are in them to have a voice and be able to know their rights so that they can be able to advocate for the same. So there are those capacity building activities that have happened and have really brought out the voices of women and DPOs to rally and push governments to account for the rights that persons with disabilities are supposed to have. So that is what has been happening around.
Okay, I'll pick the point up in my answer to to this. I've got one slide to leave you with, really, which I think is about where we're wanting to go. Yeah. Oops. Yeah. So what is the way forward? And I'll pick up the point about empowerment as part of that. But it seems to me, and I couldn't make these into a word, maybe somebody could, but increasing the strength of the movement across the Commonwealth is key. We have to go beyond offices with a few people in them to vibrant organizations with large numbers of membership who understand the oppression that we are actually facing here. It isn't just something that's happened over the last few years, it's happened over hundreds of years in societies all around the world. And what is very clear is both the economic situation we're in now and the environmental situation means that we have to move away from competition as a way of solving our problems, because that has led to huge problems, to collaboration and using the strengths of all. And that means also using the strength of people who are not normally asked to do things or involved. And so we need to build capacity and find ways of empowering people. We need to be assertive of our human rights through the UN CRPD and the Sustainable Development Goals. We've got 11 mentions in the Sustainable Development Goals, so we are there throughout, and we need to make sure that if countries are talking about that, they're also talking about the UN CRPD, but also remember the guidance produced by the committee, the general comments. We've heard general comment 7 mentioned, general comment 4 on inclusive education, the general comment on independent living, general comment on women, and also on rights, and Article 12 for people with mental health issues. So those are really important interpretations of the convention. And in law, they act as part of the convention. They're not just a guide, they are part of it. So we need to remember that. We need to get governments at local, regional, district, and national level round the table with us, and for them to say, we got it wrong in COVID. We don't know what the solutions are. What do you think the solutions are? Can we help you? Can we give you some money for a survey of your members to get detail about how we need to do things differently? We need something called co-production of policies and practices. We need that implementation of those UN CRPD and SDGs. And remember, once those 182 countries, the 50 in the Commonwealth, signed the UN CRPD, that was underlying that they were not going to do business as they had done it before with regard to disabled people and our issues. They were going to do it differently from day one. What we haven't seen in most countries is that attitude. And we think why is because we are not directly involved. And then remember, the slogan of the SDGs is no one is left behind. But we will not be able to get no one is left behind without remembering the ensuring of nothing about us without us, which was the slogan of the disability movement long before the convention, but during the convention making process, and remains really important today. And if you want to contact us, the details are up on that slide, our website, but also you can contact me individually if you have any specific issues, and I've also put it in the chat. Over to you, Sarah, for a last word.
Sarah, we need to wrap up, so really, really quick one, please.
Okay, yeah, I want to thank everyone for participating in this forum. And I want to encourage everyone to become a champion in whichever way they can, so that the implementation of the CRPD and the SDGs become a reality for persons with disabilities among the Commonwealth countries, among others, so that laws and regulations are implemented, not just formulated, but we push for the implementation of the regulations, so that persons with disabilities get to enjoy life, get to enjoy the rights moving forward and become part and parcel of the society. So thank you everyone so much for the support and for attending this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for sharing so ably. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.